You live in a gated community.
It's called a gated community.
In the gay community.
I just want us to have an open conversation, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, anybody. I want this to be a safe space for everyone.
Racism is alive and well in the gay community.
The gay community.
Gay community as us as a trans community.
Who is having that conversation?
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Gated Community Podcast. So tonight's episode is a continuation of last week's episode. We are wrapping up the conversation with Dwain. So grab a snack and get comfortable because it gets pretty interesting. Also, really quickly, the Gated Community Podcast is now streaming on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. So for your friends who say that they can't listen to the podcast because they don't have access to certain streaming platforms, ask them what their excuse is now. Okay? And speaking of relationships, let's talk about the last one you ran. How long it lasted, how you ditched your friends, how we never really heard from you or saw you except for maybe around an occasional holiday, and where you are now versus where you were back then.
Okay, so first of all, that sounds like a personal problem. And
yeah, it's personal. It's personal for you.
I guess some friends were ditched and some were just carried along the way. But it was a cool ride transition.
But you were in that relationship
for
4 years.
Right.
And no one that I know, including myself, never really heard from or saw you within that 4 years period. My question to you would be, do you think that you consider yourself one of those people who cuts people off, their friends off, while they're in relationships, and then
let's talk about it. I knew it's where you was going tonight.
And then expect for them to come back around when the relationships end. Like, expect for them to be there. I was always there because, I don't fluctuate. But some other people, and I didn't take it personally either because it's been done to me before. And I know how guys act when they're in relationships and they're like, oh, I'm going to put my man above everything. And then when it ends, they're like, hey, Corey, what's up? And I'm just like...
We're sorry. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and try again.
I was not that way. I do feel like when you get in a relationship, some dynamics change because sometimes other people have other things going on in their life and sometimes things may not match up. Like I have friends who are married, who had kids, who are single parents, and our lives just maybe didn't align once you add in that variable of a relationship because now you're adding in another person. But what I will say is that I do not think that it's cool or something that I feel is a good character to have to negate everything, like your existence and everything that you are because you're not in a relationship or you're trying to please someone because you're trying to gain something, but you're not really essentially being a 100% like yourself. You're hiding a piece of yourself from that person by being someone that you really are not.
Not really. I'm just trying to dive into the 4-year period that you spent with him, just so the listeners can kind of get an understanding of what it's like when you're inside a relationship so heavy that the outside world kind of becomes closed off.
Right.
Was it like that for you? Or was it just like, oh, I'm just in a normal relationship and I just so happen to not really hear from, or like see my friends as much anymore? Like, was it like that or the former?
I feel like I was able to see my friends as much as willing. Once again, it's all about balance. Sometimes when you're adding someone else in the equation, that they're thinking about yourself, so you have someone else to kind of be mindful of. If you have your own personal needs, they have their own personal needs, and you have your needs that you have together in your relationship. So sometimes your relationship may take precedence over hanging out with a friend or doing something.
For 4 years?
Huh?
For 4 years?
That's a lot of precedence.
No, that should not be that way. That must be a personal thing with whoever feels that someone is with someone and they're not communicating or being around them. I feel like that's something that those two individuals need to hash out or discuss amongst themselves to have an understanding on what that is. Because it could be just merely that you both have a lot of things going on. You really don't necessarily know how to coordinate.
Okay, well, let me just ask you this. What was it that caused you to go from a heavy presence in the lives of your friends to abstaining from those friendships for 4 years because you were dating this guy to ending the relationship. And then now that it's over, we have this heavy presence of Dwain again.
I think that would be perception of the individual once again.
Oh, okay. So it's our fault for thinking that what you did was not actually true.
I don't, well, see, who is our? That's the point. The question was general, but now it's more personal. Somebody has a personal feeling that way. That'd be something that is with that individual. For me, I don't feel that.
Oh, you don't think there was nothing on your part that you could have done more to have that continuity of presence in your friends' lives, like throughout your relationship of 4 years where like nobody really saw you that I know?
No, because those people that you know that didn't see me, I didn't see them prior to the relationship. So that is, a whole nother, I say it depends on the person you're talking about and the experience, because there are a lot of people who are, because of circumstances and the way that life has been now, also with dealing with the pandemic has brought a lot of people together and people have been more communicative. It's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street, but you just said the word perception. And
right. You don't fluctuate in terms of like, honey, you're the same person whether I talk to you today or a year later. Things will change depending on the circumstances and where people are in their lives. But I do feel that there are people who do get in relationship and that's just their all. They block out their friends, they block out the outside, they block out their family, block out everything outside of that to make that work, or because they're so into that and that's what makes them happy. However, there is a such thing as you having a relationship and then you and the person that you're with having your lives outside of your relationship,
In case you missed the point here, when two people become a couple, in some cases that means tunnel vision taking over. What I mean by that is their relationship can become all-consuming. This can look like speaking with your friend who dominates conversations about their newfound love, or being unable to reach your friend because their new partner is now the priority, or even seeing or hanging out with them less than you normally would because they've dedicated their time to relishing in the feelings of newness, soaking up every moment that brings them a tremendous amount of euphoria by releasing tiny bursts of optimism, giving them all the feels. This can also look like paying less attention to friends and family because of toxicity or abuse. Feelings of isolation can make a person feel like they don't have the support that they need from those that they could depend on at one point because so much time has passed between the last conversation and present day. The whole idea of he makes me whole or she completes me can lead to either scenario. I'm no relationship expert, but I don't recommend anyone scouting others, searching for love with the intent of finding your own completion within your other half. Balance in relationships is extremely important for both straight and gay couples. You can depend on balance and the respect of interpersonal relationships to sustain one relationship when another one ends. But once you become a half of a whole partnership, expecting a friend to know who you are as a person and be there for you after months of minimal contact isn't really fair to either person on either side of the friendship. This doesn't mean not supporting your friend when they are in a new relationship. Be happy for them, be happy with them, but also remain cognizant of the importance of balance and respect. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. I've done the same. I do the same. I practice balance and I make sure that no one is deprived of who I am and what I give as a friend or acquaintance or associate or whatever while I am dating someone or in a relationship. That's just me. But
I will say this though, in defense of people who are listening tonight, who are in relationships and who may be dealing with this type of situation where they feel like they're trying to balance their relationship with their friends. Look at the people around you and see if they're in relationships and see when was their last relationship or how long they've been in a successful relationship. Because sometimes some people might have more time on their hands and they need to even be worried about communication between particular individuals. Because again, like I said, me and you, we could speak for one day, I can speak to you a year later and it's the same energy. There's not no feeling of, well, girl, you're in a relationship, I ain't heard from you, you doing XYZ. It's just that, girl, we ain't caught up with one another. But when we catch up, we start from what has been missed up until that time, whether you got to be on the phone for 2 hours, 3 hours, a whole day and a half.
You're right. But I just question other people who think that it's okay to have the expectation that their friend is in a relationship now and you happen to be single, and your friend that's in a relationship, they call you, y'all gab for however long and y'all catch up and you don't hear from them again for another couple of months. If that's okay to the single friend on the receiving end to say, this is what it is now because he's in a relationship, even though this is how it wasn't before. Like, is it maybe this friend is just speaking in like third person, or this is hypothetical, but maybe the friend is just like, I don't want to cause any more friction or any friction between us and our friendship. So I'm going to continue to be the person that I am and abstain from bringing up anything that might cause some type of dispute between us for the sake of our friendship. Maybe the friend is just doing that versus, and I've been guilty of this myself in the past, like, oh, this is how you treat me when you're in a relationship. But I was the first person that you called when he broke up with you and you were crying on the phone. That shit don't work like that with me. Like, so I understand how people move when they are in relationships, but it's not really fair. Some people seem to be that constant variable in friendships when things go sour with someone, or if we just happen to maintain that constant stream of communication. And for people who are listening who might be in that situation, you just have to pick which one you want to be. Do you want to be that person that's like, it's not fair for you to treat me like this now that you have a boyfriend? Or do you want to be that person that's like, okay, let me just be mature enough to understand where they are and not make this about me and keep the friendship that we have going as long as we can, because it's not really worth destroying our friendship. My feelings aren't really worth destroying our friendship over something that I expect for it to be that it's not right now.
I hope it's the latter, because the latter expresses more so like being open.
The latter is for people who are selfish and don't know how to balance their communication and their time with their friends and their relationship.
Well, the middle ground, because you added a little extra little sauce on the end. So the middle part, when you were talking about...
Not a middle part.
You know the middle part, when you were talking about, you were saying, damn, I'm going to lose my train of thought just that quickly.
What I just said. Yeah. They can rewind.
Yeah, they can rewind, child. Rewind it.
So I think he meant this.
Let me just be mature enough to understand where they are and not make this about me and keep the friendship that we have.
But honestly speaking, I feel like relationships are just hard in general. And whether it's an emotional one in terms of like romantic or if it's like a friendship, people just have to understand that we're all just flawed to some degree. And that you have to be understanding, accepting them where they are. That's what you were saying. You were saying an understanding of accepting people where they are. That's the point you were saying.
Look at me being clairvoyant.
You need to be understanding of accepting people where they are, because...
Yeah, but on the other end of that is self-deprivation, because I'm kind of depriving myself of the expectation that I want us to have.
Because you're selfish. You don't have no patience.
Listen, half of that is true. My tolerance for patience might be low, but I'm not selfish.
It's okay, you've been with guys, right? But those relationships did not work out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but was I any different with any of my friends while I was in those relationships?
I feel like you could have been, you were different, but you may have been different towards me personally, but I'm not saying that you were not a different person in your relationship, whether it could have been good or bad or indifferent. However,
I'm talking about the balance, on the balance beam of maintaining the same level of friendship that I had, whether I was dating or whether I was single.
I feel like you still communicated from a personal standpoint. I feel like when you were in a relationship, I didn't see you as much. I feel like, yes, when you were in relationships, sometimes you were different for good reasons. In some relationships, you were more...
I was more what? Go ahead, let me let you finish, because I'm about to.
I was gonna say, I feel like you were a little bit more understanding of balance in terms of relationship and someone being single. If I can be honest, you've been more single longer at this point in time than you've ever been. Usually you were the person who's always mostly in a relationship.
That's true.
So now, you being on the opposite end, I feel like that can be a little bit of an uncomfortability for you, because you are the one who people get advice from about maybe a relationship, or you were the one who could lead by an example. And at this point, maybe the examples that you're seeing is not what you feel is the way that you would do if you were in a relationship and how you would handle things. And so maybe if you were in a relationship, then you would be more so able to show and tell.
I don't have to be in a relationship in order to be able to show and tell anything. And I've never felt deprived if I'm single. I've always appreciated my alone time and being by myself, whether I was in a relationship or if I were single, because I'm an only child. And I feel like it's an extension of that. I also would always commend myself for the streamline of communication with people in my life being the same, regardless of if I were in a relationship or not. Now, you mentioned something about me not going out with my friends when I was dating someone because of whatever reason, but there was never a time that I can remember that anyone heard from me less because I was in a relationship and I just might not happen to be able to go out and hang out. And that's the point that I was trying to make. It wasn't about doing things together. It was just about the communication piece of that balance aspect.
When you went wine, your listeners will see that that was the first point I made. I said that on a communication standpoint, you had it down pat. Look, the people saying that she's saying that it's her show, girl, and she asked the questions.
I'm not here to silence anyone.
I just want us to have an open conversation, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, anybody. I want this to be a safe space.
We giving the real, the raw. But I'm just saying, you could take my opinion and say that that's my perspective of how I see things. If we're going to take it there, because, you know, your show kind of goes on a political spectrum a little bit. If we're talking from a sexual position standpoint, being a submissive one in the relationship and comparing yourself to the heteronorm, you discuss about being a problem that gays do. Why are we supplying a place for a man to be coming living up a shack? I should be going to go stay with him.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I've never been that person to be like, this is how I should form my life and live a certain way according to the rules of what is deemed to be normal in straight culture.
Someone else would say that being the submissive person in the relationship, that's a no-no, bitch. He supplies. Someone
said that being submissive in a relationship is a bad thing?
Some people do feel that way. Like,
between two men?
Yes. They have girlfriends. Like, they're supposed to get you a man who's supposed to be taking care of things, doing shit, because they with their girlfriend and they have that same type of mentality. It's nothing wrong with that. Whatever your standard is and how you boss your shit up, that's how you do it. Like, so if you say a man supposed to do X, Y, Z, and you ain't moving no man in your shit, you moving in with him, that's how that shit gonna go. Some people might frown. I ain't that bitch. I ain't built like that. It's like you ain't a bitch who built to date somebody on OnlyFans, who's currently doing OnlyFans. I'm not a bitch to date somebody who I gotta move in and do some shit with. Girl, fuck that.
Yeah. I mean, I understand your point. And I've never been one to move based on the opinions and the values of others. I tend to move based on emotional responses, like on my feelings. And sometimes that can get me in situations that I might later come to regret, right? But at the same time, it's like, I'm going to do what I feel like is best for me at the time. And if I'm dating someone, what's best for us? Because when I'm with someone, I never think for one. I always think for two. Always. I've always been like that. So I'm going to do what I feel like is best for both of us. Of course, we're going to have conversations about it, but I'm going to think of what's in the best interest of my relationship with my partner. So it's not necessarily like all about me, but I'm not going to do anything simultaneously. I'm not going to do anything that's going to make me feel uncomfortable with anyone that I'm seeing at the time. So that part.
Case closed.
Case and the category is closed.
So wait, so do you want kids?
Of course I do.
So you want kids. So when do you plan on making that happen and how? Surrogacy, artificial insemination? Do you actually plan to have intercourse? Or like, how do you plan to make that happen?
So right now I've put a timeline on myself. My timeline was 35 to 40. And between that time, I would like to do like the in vitro, like have the artificial insemination, like have the egg and the sperm put together and put into someone to carry the fetus until its birth. And then the rights are signed over to me or maybe myself and my partner if we are together and doing this together.
Would having a partner determine whether or not you want to do this by yourself? Or like, is it important for you to have a partner in order to have a baby?
No.
Why do you think gays are more attracted to guys with kids?
I don't think they are.
Why don't you think they are?
Because I feel that children can be kind of distraction. The lifestyle is kind of more so party going out.
What lifestyle?
The gay lifestyle. Like, I feel like, like you got a kid, you're going to be at home.
So we know that being gay is not a lifestyle. We've talked about that, remember? Gay lifestyle. People who don't know tend to assume. Characters of assumption speak in the boldest font because they're subconsciously trying to convince themselves that they're right while simultaneously attempting to do the same to others. This is when assuming leads to confusion. Confusion is a branch on the tree of ignorance. With that being said, for those who think they know what a lifestyle is, allow me to educate you on what it's not. Homosexuality. A lifestyle is nothing more than a way of living. Homosexuality is a way of being. The rich and famous live a lavish lifestyle. To eat well-balanced meals and exercise regularly is to live a healthy lifestyle. To not think before you speak and repeat what sounds good just because someone else says it is to live an ignorant lifestyle. Again, homosexuality is not a way of living. It's a way of being without subject to change. Whereas the aforementioned can change with control or lack thereof.
Learn something from this.
Okay, tomato. Do we really care? Like, child?
Yes, bitch, it's important for people to know that being gay is not a lifestyle.
Well, you know what? Okay, you know what? Listen, in my life, in the way I style my shit, I'm going to say this. For me, they're not wanting someone who has kids because the kids are tying you down.
Think about it this way. I think that gays are attracted to guys who have kids because, and I had an old friend that like, he's actually like testified to this to me. He's like, if you don't have a kid, I won't date you. I think gay guys are more attracted to guys who have kids because it's less about the kids and more about the guy. Right? Because they see them as being more masculine. They see them as being more on the spectrum of being straight.
Which is also very fucking toxic.
Because they've been with a woman and they've had sex with a woman and the woman gave them a child. So they find that to be attractive in some kind of twisted way because that kind of equates to... It underscores the idea of alpha masculinity and also that part of, like, I like that he has a kid because now I can play the submissive, like, I know my role in the relationship is going to be submissive because he's a father and I'm going to assume the role of the mother. Now, this is not exclusive to masculine guys, but for the sake of conversation, we're going to narrow the window. Also, just think of the Kinsey scale, right? The heterosexual, homosexual rating scale, which I think is like absolutely ridiculous, but this is why labels are important. Thank you to Alfred Kinsey and Wardell Pomeroy and Clyde Martin for the Kinsey scale. Some people see two male parents in a relationship as the kid having two dads. Some people also see two males in a relationship with one having a kid as one playing the role of a father and one playing the role of a mother.
Okay, so we're talking about a play mama. So, listen. What?
Nothing, go ahead.
Hey, play mama. I mean, look, okay, listen. I'm just saying this. So, I don't give a fuck what it is. My thing is when you have a guy who has a child and they didn't have sex with a woman to have a baby, that's what they wanted to do. And they could be just as a feminine and as a play mama as, and the man coming in there being a daddy because he's trying to get them off to get the family set up because he's trying to get them a family of his own. So it could be any kind of scenario. But
I think the element of stability is also attractive to guys who want to date guys with kids. Like you're stable enough to be able to raise your son.
You can be stable without kids. What if some people have the desire to have children with their spouse? That may be a turnoff. Me personally, back then, I didn't want you having kids. I want to start my family with me and my husband at that time. We have our kid together because I wanted it to be in traditional fashion. I don't even want to say it's traditional. I feel like it's just how human nature is. But if it doesn't happen that way, then I have them on my own. But I don't personally want a man who got kids already. But if you do, it is not a deal breaker. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
How old are they? What I'm dealing with? What we got to do? Get me on board and get me on plan so we can make this thing work. Because, child, I'm in this for you. And if that comes with you, then that's what we going to deal with. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I don't want to hear nothing else about what we got to say. Ain't should be no problems.
I think there's also the idea of, in a traditional sense, right? Like if you have a male and a female, like a straight couple that have kids, and the guy is no longer with the baby mama. Okay. So you're just out here like walking the streets, living your life as a baby mama. People tend to ridicule people who aren't holding down a 2-parent household. But if there's a gay person who has a kid, it's almost like I'm excusing the fact that this kid only has one parent because his dad is gay. I don't really know if I feel like that's fair for people to expect for a man and a woman to have a 2-parent household. But because this gay guy has a kid, oh, it's all right if, there's not another parent in the household because he's gay.
But I think it's harder if you're a gay man, you having a significant other for them that's better. I don't know. I really don't know.
No, I'm saying the problem is with people objectifying the relationship between a man and a woman and a child. Like that's the expectation for them to like live like the Cosbys, right? Like, because it was the quintessential all-American family with one or more kids. And this automatically becomes the blueprint for what a normal family should look like. And I think the goal was for that narrative and for that illustration to become embedded in people's brains with the goal of having them emulate or imitate the family lifestyle on The Cosby Show. I don't even know why I'm using Cosby for a reference because we all know what he did. Same thing could be said about the Brady Bunch. How about that? Except for,
fun fact,
Mike Brady, the dad on the Brady Bunch, was a homosexual in real life. One win for Mike Brady. But say Jack and Will from Will and Grace were to get together and have a kid, and one of them bailed on each other and the other one was left with the kid and maybe they co-parented, the idea would be, oh, well, I don't really expect for him to have 2 dads anyway because his dad is gay. So I don't really expect for them to live the traditional family
lifestyle
because he has a gay dad. And that's not really, in my mind, I'm kind of torn between if that's not giving us the same respect as a straight couple or if that respect would come from a place of heteronormativity. And it's something that we don't even really need in order to live within the moral compass of society.
Honestly speaking, I don't even understand why people even care.
People care about a lot of shit that doesn't pertain to them, but
I feel like we heard as people, look out like mammals and birds, people, everything in nature that I know, they stick together in packs as a village. So it's only just in nature for us just to stick together in that sense. Sometimes I feel like if that means that we feel like a union between 2 people and having a kid is what we want, and that's what we see as our ideal life, then so be it. But gay people are who they are because they're not what you would consider to be the norm in society. That what makes us think outside of the box with some of the things we think about. But don't discount someone who's not gay because trust me, baby, you ain't got to be in the shoes to know and see what's going on, baby. You know what I'm saying? On both ends of the spectrum. But I feel like it's an interesting dynamic that straight people and gay people have. And we operate a lot in the same because we are the same. The label really doesn't even mean anything if you ask me.
Well, good thing nobody asked you. We're going to wrap this up. I have one final question for you. What advice would you give a young gay person based on your story coming up, living life as a Black gay person?
I would tell him or her to be brave, go for what you know, and don't stop for nothing. I don't care if you feel like you need to just like do something else and just stop. Like, don't stop for nothing. Do what you plan to do. Be yourself. Follow your intuition and your gut, and everything else will fall in place. But you know what? That could be the plan. the plan could be, you ever know people who say like, look, I follow my gut and my gut got me in the right place. And sometimes you have just that feeling in you that tells you like, I shouldn't do this. I need to do this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yeah.
Follow that. If you feel like I'm going to be this person, you'll get there. Somebody might say like, I'm going to be the president of the United States of America. You might not be the president of the United States of America, but on your way up there, you might fulfill that need or find your purpose. And you will be the president of whatever you are desiring to set out to be the president of.
Work. I like
you know
that.
What I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I like that. I love that actually.
Yeah.
Good message. Plug yourself, Dwain. Where can we find you? Instagram, Facebook? Do you have any?
I'll just say, look, you can find me somewhere trolling and lurking. On the blog sphere, somewhere. I don't know what my name this week might be one thing, next week will be something else.
What is your fucking Instagram?
Just type in my name and you'll find me. Just type in Dwain Hughes and you will find me.
On Instagram?
Yep, I'll go by my name. The headliners and all the, the slogans, don't worry about it. Just type the name in and you'll find me.
You guys, I'll be sure to plug his Instagram handle in the description of this episode. Dwain, I really appreciate you joining us. I really appreciate you being here. And stay safe. And remember to communicate whenever you get in another relationship that's on the brink of becoming what's happening right now. Okay?
That's like a prelude to something. Like you're leading the listeners to something that they don't really have.
You never know.
You never know what you're going to get with the gated community.
It's called a gated community.
I'm in a gated community. All the gays are
You
lying.
live in a gated community.
African people are not pro-homosexual.
Who is having that conversation?